Everything we do, Eric, is all done through what I call the core five, which is faith, health, relationships, business, and finances. I've been around the best of the best of the best. And what I've learned is it doesn't matter how big of a business I can build or how much finances I can accrue. One of two things is almost always going to happen. Either I'm going to have a great business and a lot of money and nobody to spend it with because nobody wants to hang around me. Or I'm going to build a business and finances. And because my foundation of faith, health, and relationships is so poor, those things are going to crumble and I'm going to wind up losing it all.
Yeah, it's amazing to be living in your purpose. And I think the greatest connection to purpose is connection with God, because you connected to something that's much bigger than yourself. For me personally, my greatest connection to a higher power has been stepping into the light. And I think it's been one of the greatest healers that I've seen in other people. For me, faith really is solidified the more I've stepped into the light. All right, you guys, so we got a special episode today with my dear friend, Ken Joslin. Ken is a warrior. I mean, he's definitely a man on a mission, so he's perfect for our show. If you guys don't know Ken, so Ken has a podcast and a book, As the Leader Grows. Ken has got 30 years in real estate, over $300 million in closed transactions, pastor turned entrepreneurial coach that's out on the front lines helping people become the best versions of themselves. And what I love about Ken is he's got the #1 faith-based entrepreneurial conference in the world with some of the biggest speakers they brought in to speak. Erwin McManus, another friend of ours, Ed Milet, John Maxwell, Jesse Itzler, Brendan Bouchard, the list goes on and on. So this guy circulates around the best in class in the industry that I'm now stepping into light in myself, this whole concept of personal development, becoming the best version of ourselves, leaving an impact. So it wasn't long before I crossed paths with Ken. So here we are, Ken. Thank you so much for doing the show today. It was late notice and you jumped to the occasion. So I really appreciate you, brother.
Dude, you're welcome, man. Anytime I've got some time to spend with Eric Rock, bro, I jump in. I am all in, taking advantage of that, bro.
Oh, I appreciate it, Ken. So our show's called Man on a Mission. You know, we love men and women that are out in the marketplace, you know, with a mission. They're out there bearing their souls to the world, if you will. So many of the best people I've ever met, they come from places where they've somehow turned pain to purpose. There's always a great story in someone. Where would I start with you, Ken? Where would you want to start in your journey of where you think your transformation started? I mean, long before the mission, oftentimes there was some child that needed to be healed. There was some pain, some tragedy. Where would you start us?
Yeah, for me, you know, being a man of faith, I spent half of the last 25 years in full-time ministry, pastoring churches, planting churches around the Atlanta area. Had some amazing opportunities to be on some nice stages with some amazing guys. You mentioned John Maxwell earlier. And really that was it for me. It was just that journey of faith. I was 25 years old when I gave my life to Christ. Never been to church, didn't know anything about church. 25 years old, gave my life to Christ. And literally, man, my life just took off from there. From there, I grew one of the largest youth ministries in the country back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Yeah, I'm that old, bro. Like back when you probably were in high school back in the day. And so
I graduated in 2002.
Traveled, spoke at a lot of large conferences, had my own National Youth Leadership Conference. And then from there into the mortgage business, working for a friend of mine for about 2.5 years, started my own mortgage company, was one of the top mortgage brokers in Georgia with SunTrust and Countrywide Wholesale 4 years in a row back in the mid 2000s, back into full-time ministry from 08 till about 2015, 16. And then back from there, back into real estate. I finished 7th out of 3,700 agents and the largest real estate brokerage in the state of Georgia back in 2019. And then literally was just trying to figure out what it looked like. And I ran into this little 5'5" dude in a thing called 10X boot camp in Miami, October of 2019. And you know, what I told Grant in the past was, as a man of faith, it was like at that moment, the businessman on the inside of me got born again. Like something clicked in me when I met Grant, and him and I became really close. I was one of his first licensees 4 years ago. And right after that started, GSD, and literally right when COVID hit in 2020. And COVID hit, and we said, you know what we're going to do? I was planning a conference in Atlanta in May the 19th and 20th of 2020. I was going to do a conference. I had my good friend David Pollock, who was on College Game Day forever. I had John Maxwell, some other friends of mine coming in to speak. and COVID hit. So I just knocked all the in-person live events out, right? And so we started an online coaching 12-week program and had 30 people, pony up. I think it was $397 at the time. And we started that, and dude, and here we are 4 years later with, hundreds of people that we get to coach and mentor in our community every week, and then hundreds and hundreds of people that show up to our conference every year in Atlanta.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, a lot of lives impacted,
Yeah.
Ken. So is everything you do, is it all through sort of the lens of faith, of God first, of the foundation of how you communicate and you teach? What are some of the principles and the foundations for how you work with the people that you're inspiring?
So for me, you had asked about faith and how is faith? Is that pertinent and important? And so what we do is really look at the whole human being. Like, who are we? What are we made up of? And so everything we do, Eric, in our conferences, my mastermind, my online community, is all done through what I call the core five, which is faith, health, relationships, business, and finances. And you're an uber successful business guy. You've been around the block now. I think you just turned 40 this past week or past couple of weeks. Congratulations. Happy birthday on that.
Appreciate
But
you,
you've
brother.
seen at 40 years old, I'm 55. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been in ministry for a long time. I've been around the best of the best of the best. And what I've learned is that, listen, if I don't have my faith and my health and my relationships in alignment, and that's really the foundation of who I am, it doesn't matter how big of a business I can build or how much finances I can accrue. One of two things is almost always going to happen. Either I'm going to have a great business and a lot of money and nobody to spend it with because nobody wants to hang around me, or I'm going to build a business and finances. And because my foundation of faith, health, and relationships is so poor, those things are going to crumble and I'm going to wind up losing it all. And so I said, okay, God, how can we go into this space of personal development with this message of faith? And again, I've got people in my community that may not be of the same faith or may not have any faith. And I'm like, listen, I don't care what your faith is. Just, are you taking the journey and taking a step? What I say, even in my planner, when I did my planner, there's a 1% better area. Are you getting 1% better in your faith every day? But
Hmm.
growing in that faith, health, and relationships, and knowing when you do that, that foundation is solid, the business and the finances are almost organic.
Hmm. Yeah, it's amazing to be living in your purpose. And I think the greatest
Yeah.
connection to purpose is connection with God. It helps solidify real purpose because you connect it to something that's much bigger than yourself. And usually God falls right in there in a kind of an organic way. I don't know about you, maybe you can attest to this, but I think for me personally, my greatest connection to a higher power has been stepping into the light. And that alone has been a very transformational for me. And it's sort of like I'm acting out now and living sort of in God's will instead of just talking about it. I'm out in the front lines where my greatest fears are, which is just fear of what people think, the same
Yeah.
fear everyone else has. And so I like this. I always challenge people to step into the light. And I think it's been one of the greatest healers that I've seen in other people that have come from trauma, that have come from terrible divorces where they were slaves and they didn't even realize it in their own relationships. And through their story and in telling it in the light, they've healed themselves in a way that's very hard to explain, but I've sort of watched that transformation. So I don't know if that speaks to you, but for me, faith really is solidified the more I've stepped into the light. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Well, I think for you, and I watch you, and the one thing I love about you, dude, is your transparency and how authentic you are. Even at the level of success that you've tasted, even at your age, you're still young, dude. At 40 years old, you continue to step into areas that you lean into. So one of my code that I created this past year for myself is I leaned into the uncomfortable immediately.
Totally.
Like, when it's uncomfortable, and I'm going after the uncomfortable. And I watch you do that. And anytime I think, as a human being, when you start leaning into things you're uncomfortable with, doesn't matter how much success you've garnered in the past. When you start leaning into things you're uncomfortable in, it almost causes that faith to go, okay, God, I don't even know if you're real. I don't even know what's going on. But man, this is super uncomfortable for me to be able to put myself
Totally.
in this position. And dude, everybody I watch, from you to Erwin to Ed to John Gordon, who's a friend, all my guys who are are faith-based entrepreneurs, I see the same thing. The more that you step out in with faith and the more you step into purpose, the more you really lean into, okay, God, I've got to make sure that my faith is on point, because if not, I'm going to look awful foolish, because I'm going to attempt to do something that, God, unless you show up, I'm going to look foolish.
Totally. Yeah. It's crazy how all this resonates so much with me right now. You know, in my journey, I think that, this whole concept of stepping out into the light, it creates accountability to God. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's
Purpose, man. It comes from a different place in you, Eric.
Yeah.
You know, when I met you at the Aspire event, I was in the green room hanging out with all my friends, and you were on the phone. You were on the stage with Jeff Finster, who's a super good friend of mine, and I saw you give Dan that $100,000 check. Man, I was like, something in my spirit was like, dude, I don't even know who this kid is, but I got to meet this dude.
Oh,
And
thanks,
I watch you in your authenticity and who you are and just the purpose in you, because you're like, God's given you a story. He's put something in you. You have paid the price in a way that a lot of men do not understand. There's a price to be paid to be where you're at. And what he's given you is a desire and a purpose to help lead men in that process, to show them that it's possible, to say, hey, guys, there's a scripture in the New Testament where Paul says, follow me as I follow Christ. And really what you're doing to men across the country, Eric, is you're saying, hey, follow me. I've been where you want to go, and I paid the price. Now I just want to help you do it and give you permission and encouragement that you can do it as well.
Yeah. Your 5 core, Ken, are so good. Mm-hmm. Like they're faith, health, relationships, and it was a business and finance was the last 2?
And finances. Yeah, business and finance. Finances is always the last thing. If finances isn't the last thing, then you've got your life out of alignment, man. And I'm telling you, if all you're doing is going after money, I love Grant. Grant has been an unbelievable friend to me and a mentor, but him and I differ on that, because Grant's like, who cares about purpose? Just go after the money. I'm like, nah, it just doesn't. For me, and it's different. He gets to have his opinion. I get to have my opinion. It's, man, if I go after purpose, and you said something just a minute ago, there's purpose in your pain. One of my 5 affirmations I say every single day, is written right here in my planner, is I am whole. I choose to use past pain to help others find healing, which is why I am so uber transparent and so authentic when I get on my stage with one of my therapists at my conference, and we're doing the relationship section, and my therapist speaks on polarity between men and women, between the feminine and the masculine. That I get up and share my story about childhood trauma and how I just realized at 53 years old that I had this trauma, and my journey of being healed. And literally 356 people we had at my conference last year, I had the team put Kleenexes on every table out there. And bro, there wasn't a dry eye in the joint. And some of my friends are like, dude, how in the world can you get up there and share that story and be that vulnerable? I'm like, God brought me through this for a reason. And it's not just for me to learn, but it's for me to take what God's done in my heart and in my life, and even in the lives of other people that I know and love, and to be able to share that in such a way to help people through the same situations, or even avoid those same situations.
Yeah. You think that childhood trauma is what got you to where you're at deep down? Did you leverage that pain from that childhood trauma into all these places where most people will just stay in the comfort? They won't go where the discomfort is.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, one of the things I read, and it may have been Erwin talked about this at our mastermind at his house back like last April or May, when we did our first group together. And he talked about that, you know, studies show, and he named a study, and I don't remember what it was, but the top percentage of entrepreneurs and CEOs all had a certain level of childhood trauma. It wasn't enough to throw them off track, but it was enough for them to go, nope, I'm going to prove to everybody that I can do it.
Yeah, right.
I'm not going to quit. There is no quit in me. Like, I do not quit. And so I think that, yes, in every single entrepreneur who's made it at a high level, there is most definitely some type of childhood trauma that puts a chip on their shoulder. I got to prove something. And I refuse to quit. I absolutely refuse to give up.
That's so good. Yeah, it's funny. I totally agree with you. I'm even, I always examine my own instincts and my own self, and I try to, and then I pair up with people that I admire, and you see a lot of these common things, these validations for ways that you have been as you pursue sort of some of these rare places in life. And you wonder, why do I keep working so hard? Why do I obsess over this? Why do I have tunnel vision for the things I want? I think a lot of it is people are, it's like this is their way of saying F you to all the people that wronged them, the people that hurt them. You're going to watch me. And again, like you can leverage that, I think, almost all the way to the top. I don't think it's enough to get to God, but it's definitely enough to separate from the masses and go win big in life. You can leverage that pain.
Well, let me tell you where the difference is. Let me tell you where the difference is in that, Eric, is I think for a long time, even for me, it was, I want to prove. I want to prove. I want to prove. Even when I built one of the largest youth ministries in America, dude, my first big stage in 2000, April of 2000, my first big stage in April 2000, about 8,000 or 9,000 people, and I spoke behind John Maxwell for the very first time.
That's big.
I now spoke behind John 3 times now. He's opened my conference the last 2 years. And so, and I tell him every year, I'm like, dude, I'm never speaking behind you because you suck all the air out of the room. But I was 32 years old.
It's a legend.
And here I am up on this stage speaking behind John and in front of one of my mentors. And it was, and I tell you what my mentor said. She asked me after we got done, she said, hey, can I take you to lunch tomorrow? I said, I'd love to go to lunch. So I go to lunch with Jeannie. We sit down and she says, Ken, I'm going to ask you the most important question of your life. She said, do you want to be significant or do you want to be successful? Because they're two vastly different things. Because what she saw in her 50s then was a 32-year-old kid who thought he had the world by the tail, man. Here I am doing what God's called me to do. I mean, God just elevated. Just elevation was unbelievable what he was doing. And here she saw that in me. And so it started a 20-year journey to really figure out what it looks like to be a significant leader. And people ask me all the time, they're like, Ken, how do you get the people around you that you get around you? How do you get a guy like Vic Keller, who sold 11 companies to Warren Buffett for an undisclosed amount, which is a lot, to come spend 3 days with you? How do you get guys like Brendan Burchard stood on my stage back in July at Create, and I'm standing there, blew me. I had tears in my eyes. He goes, guys, I'm going to tell you something. He goes, let me tell you how much I love Ken. He goes, I've been doing this for 15 years. I've never given anyone 2 days of my time. This is the first time I've ever done that. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, what? Erwin comes to my mastermind in November in Sundance, and he's standing in front of the room and he goes, guys, I'd love for you to pray for my mom. She had cancer surgery yesterday. And my brother and sister called me and said, when would I be in Florida? And he said, well, I've got to go to Sundance to speak for my good friend Ken because he's my friend and I already told him I would show up. And he looked at me in the eye, Eric, there's 40 people in the room, 50 people on mastermind. And he goes, Ken, I didn't tell you because you would have told me not to come. And people are like, how do you get around these people? And if I had one message, Eric, and if your audience hears one thing, it's this. Great leaders want something for people, not from people. Great leaders want something for people.
Great leaders want something for people.
Because, dude, that is the definition of success. It's the definition of significance. Like, if I want to live a significant life, my favorite Zig Ziglar quote, if I help enough people get what they want, eventually I'm going to get what I want. And I literally, when somebody asked me, it may have been Jimmy Rex on a podcast, big podcast lately, they said, Ken, when you're done with all this self-development and creating conferences, what do you want people to say about you? I said, I want to change the way people look at the self-development space. I want them to look and go, that's the way it's supposed to be done, with character, with integrity, with honor. Like, it's supposed to be done that way. Doesn't mean I can't make money. Doesn't mean I can't change a ton of lives and have a blast doing it. But I want people to be able to look and go, man, that's the way you're supposed to do it. That's the way you're supposed to. You can make all the money you want to, dude. I'm telling you, you change people's lives and you help people you said it earlier, you help people get from point A to point B and become the best version of themselves. The money's never the issue.
No, you're right. Yeah, money's a byproduct. Yep. Yeah, I'm with you. I love this conversation. And yeah, I was going to ask you too, like getting around these high level people, they have a lot of demand. It's not easy. You have to really bring something unique to the table. There has to be exchange of value. And you really tapped in it. I love the Zig Ziglar quote. And I actually even like what your mentor asked. Do you want to be significant? Do you want to be successful? I thought that was good. And that finances come last. Like they do. A lot of people prioritize that, and like, that ain't it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but I would say,
But there's been a time in all of our lives, Eric, where we thought finances did come first.
for sure, 100%. You think that's going to be the be all end all. It's only when you have it and you start really trying to put together what the meaning of life is, and you look behind and you know, the shiny toy, you know, syndrome that we may have here, that is, you do that long enough, you start asking the right questions, and it's, you know, you start reframing things. Only then can you look back and try to put it together. So it's cool now. We're in a position to help someone skip some of these steps. I always put mission as the number one priority in someone, which is really a connection of faith in God too, through that mission, through that purpose. But that's always the first place I start, no matter what entrepreneur I'm with. I always go right to mission first, and I make sure we're solidified there before I worry about anything else, definitely before money. And it's amazing how many people are not on that train of thought at all. Like they're not. This is uncommon. I've said this before. If you were going to go to Disneyland and tap 100 people on the shoulder, just random people. And the reason I say Disneyland, I think it's an eclectic mix of a random bunch of people. Some people saved up all year to get there. It's expensive. Other people, you know, no big deal. They may go there every month, but it's just an odd assortment of different families, different age groups. But I bet you if you tapped 100 people on the shoulder and you asked them what their mission is, 95% of them would not have a mission. And for the ones that actually gave an answer, I bet you'd be different next week. And they just said whatever came to the top of their mind, meaning these people didn't build a movement around it, a community around it, a brand, an empire around it. They didn't build something significant around mission. That's why this is so rare. But if you are a person that has mission is part of your life, more likely than not, you're doing something that really gives you a sense of fulfillment that at death will hopefully make you look back and not have a lot of regret. Like that's a big thing for me. Are you going to have regret at death? Because all the shit you didn't do, you're so scared. You're worried about what other people think. You're not living in your purpose, because the people that live in purpose, they override their insecurities with actions because they hang on to mission and purpose is a dominating source of energy that is going to get you out of your own way oftentimes, and bulldoze the people that are holding you back likely. That's just what I found. I don't know about you, but
I love it. Listen, I say all the time, if you need an alarm clock to get out of bed, your goals aren't big enough.
Totally.
If you need an alarm clock to get out of bed, your goals aren't big enough. Like you're not, like literally, dude, you should be so fired up when you go to bed. Like I woke up this morning, it was 12:55, and I was in the bed by 8:05
I do that too.
Last night.
Is it morning yet?
Like I was in bed by 8. I know. I'm like, dude, I'm ready to roll, and I'm like, oh crap, 12.
I'm the same way, man.
Let me go to the bathroom. Let me walk back in there and not try to open my eyes too much and not try to get awake. And let me get back in the bed and sleep till this morning till like 4:30 or 5.
You know, I've never heard someone tell me that. I thought it's a good point though. I wake up all the time. Like, is it morning yet? And it's because I have so much shit I'm always excited about that I've always got plans. There's always something coming up that's making me nervous that I'm stewing on. These are big commitments now I'm making towards doing things that are scary. Like I'm always scared. I'm a scared little man. But it keeps me teeming in the morning. I've been like this for years, but no one's ever framed it that way. Like me and you just speak the same language. I wake up all the time like, oh, fuck, it's only 2 a.m. Damn, I can't get up yet. But I want to get up and start the day because I have so many ideas.
When I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm like, please don't let it be 1:30.
I know,
please don't let it be. Please let it be at least 4. 3:30 to 4, and I'm good to go. Yeah.
I don't get people that aren't morning people. If you're not a morning person, you're not doing the right thing. Like I just got to apologize for you. You're not doing something in life that has real purpose. If you're not excited for mornings, you should be so jacked up to go conquer all the cool things you're about to do, all the hard phone calls you're about to go make, all the endorphins you're about to light up in your soul. Like you just don't have something ain't right with you if you're not a morning person. I just got to say it. I'm probably offending a lot of people right now.
Dude, listen,
okay.
I absolutely love it. I'm actually going to use this. I'm actually going to use this in my conference. There's a scripture in the book of Mark where it says Jesus arose early before the sunrise. Like he went to spend time with God. It's still dark outside. And I'm like, listen, if Jesus can get up early in the morning, I can get up early in the morning.
Let's go. 100%.
Come on, man.
Ken, I want to ask you, so you speak behind
Yeah.
guys like John Maxwell. You're on a stage in front of 8,000 people. That's a dream of mine one day to make it happen. I want to do that myself. I got to check that box in my life that I'm speaking in front of an audience that large. So I have aspirations to do that as well. I got to say, so what is your message on stage? When you're on stage in front of an audience like that, walk me through, like, what do you communicate to a big audience like that? How do you move that many people?
Yeah. So I heard, I don't know if you know Gary Brecker or not. Gary's a dear friend of mine. I've got a text thread every morning. We've been blowing it up all day long. I've got Gary Brecker on there. Vic Keller's on there. Brent Gove, who's the #1 guy at EXP with 29,000 agents. My good friend Brian Covey is on there. And I'm missing somebody. Who else is on there? Oh, Randy Garn. Randy Garn's on there. And Randy's on there. So the 6 of us have been on this text thread for about 2 years now. And one of the things I heard Gary say at one of my very first live events that I did in October of 2021, Gary came in. He had just partnered with Grant. He had just sold part of his medical stuff to Grant, and they started 10X Health Systems. And Gary came in and spoke at an event that I did with Brad at Lightspeed in Vegas. And Gary talked about authenticity. And he talked about this study with Bradley. And he talked about this study that Harvard had done about how we as humans emit EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies. We emit these frequencies all the time. And he talked about how the highest frequency measured was the frequency of authenticity. And authenticity is when we have a great understanding of a subject and a deep passion about a subject. So you can have a great understanding about a subject, but not have a passion about it, and there's no authenticity. And he also said this: the #1 most sought after frequency by other human beings is the frequency of authenticity. It's why when you got on that stage that day and you handed that check to Dan Fleischman, I went, I got to know this dude. Like, I want to know this guy.
Oh, wow.
You said it. Dude, every time we talk, you say, dude, we think alike. Like we talk alike. Our language is alike. Our passion is alike. Our desires are alike. Well, there's a reason, because we both live authentic lives. So what do you do when you stand on a stage? I don't care if it's Grant's stage, my stage. I mean, I've been at EXP 2 or 3 different times in front of hundreds or thousands of agents at EXP's events. It's always show up with authenticity. Let me show up and just be me. Because what God's gifted me to do and what he's put on the inside of me and what he's put on the inside of Eric Rock is, dude, nobody can be you. Nobody can be you. For such a time as this, for such a place as this, he's put you in that position. So when I get up there, dude, I just want to be me. And sometimes, like I remember last year at EXP Regional in Detroit, I spoke behind GoGo Bethke, who's one of the largest agents with EXP. GoGo's got her own brand. She's got hundreds of agents that she coaches. She's killing it. And I got up, and she's from Europe somewhere. She's got a really cool little accent. So she gets, she's gorgeous, right? And I said, hey guys, my name's Ken Joslin. I'm the less prettier version of GoGo. And GoGo's down on the front row just dying. Everybody's laughing, right? And I just want to be me. Because if I can get you to connect with me and I can do it in an authentic way, then all the walls come down. And then when I share the information God's put on my heart to share, it's going to connect with you. And when I talk about great leaders want something for you, not from you, or when I talk about my concept called incremental, not monumental, small daily disciplined decisions over time always equal monumental results. Success can't escape you when you do the right things every single day. Hey guys, I'm not the most talented guy in this room. Not even close. I'm not the best looking. I'm not the best communicator. I'm not the best of a lot of things. Growing up, I was an average athlete, but nobody would outwork me. In business, nobody's going to get up at 4 a.m. more than I'm going to. I've lost 85 pounds. Nobody's going to work harder. Well, maybe you. No, outside of Eric, nobody else is going to work harder than the gym than me. I'm going to bust my ass. And so when I show up on a platform like that, I want them, when they get done, to go, dude, if this dude can do it, I can do it.
Yeah. That's a powerful emotion to give someone else, that what I do, you can do too. Yeah. And I resonate that too, that authenticity, just from you digesting all your messages. I'm learning from people that have come from before me, including you. But that authenticity thing, like, You know, I have a dumb rule. It's stupid, but it's something I connect to that gets me to a very deep place in my soul. And it's where I think I'm most effective. It just works for me because I'm so nervous in front of a camera. Even these cameras, like this is the old Eric Rock. That guy had to get murdered a long time ago. I had to hold on to something. So I made this rule to just bleed. I was just going to bleed in every room I walk into. I don't know why that has like this catabolic effect on my brain when I just take a deep breath and bleed. And I've adopted that really on stage. So I've spoken on a bunch of stages this year, 100 stages, and I've never said the same thing twice. I've never said the same speech twice. I don't have the same speech. I speak from the heart, and oftentimes I don't know what rabbit hole I may go down, but I go down them, and it's my style, but it's authentic to me. It's what makes me really different in the marketplace and powerful is you really don't know where I'm going to hit you and what's going to come. Now, if I was going to curate it to help sell for someone, I could do that. Just tell me what you want, I guess. But at the end of the day, it's got to be from deep in my soul, like deep in my stomach. I pull that out. And it's oftentimes why I cuss, why I say a foul word. It's just the way it comes out of me. And it's that aggressive, like that Eric Rock from that child that's deep buried in him, that's hurt, that's coming out somehow. And it's empowering you to leverage all the things in your life that likely you're telling the wrong story about. Like you're most likely you're lying to yourself and you just don't realize it. I had to come to these same realizations myself, but it comes out the way it comes out. So I think just to pair up to the audience who we're always trying to deliver value to, if you see yourself in some sort of arena or in some sort of light, and most likely the best version of you is out there impacting in the light, then you're going to have to tap into some of these resources that Ken is talking about and that I'm telling you my experience with of how to utilize that fingerprint that you are. There's only one of you. How are you going to use that to your advantage? Don't try to be like anyone else. Don't try to mimic anyone else. Like I definitely have role models, but I don't try to be them. And I learned that through just bleeding. Like the only way that I could get through it was to dig into my soul. And that's what comes out. And that's creating Eric Rock. That's what's created Ken Joslin. We're not trying to be something we're not. And I think people try to do that too often and it doesn't resonate. It doesn't hit well. It's not that funny. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's
the thing is identical twins that are so identical, it's hard for parents to even tell which one is which. Still have a different fingerprint.
Yeah. Wasn't that wild? Crazy to me.
Still have a different fingerprint.
That's a God thing.
I mean, so identical that their parents can barely even tell them apart. They still have a different fingerprint.
Yeah. Amazing. So
and that's God saying, I've marked you to do something different, and I've marked you to do something. You have an assignment and a purpose that no one else on the planet has.
Oh, it's so good, Ken. It's so good. Yeah, I had a moment on stage. You ever had a moment on stage where it just clicks, like something clicks? It's like you now see the world in a different light, almost as like a spiritual experience. I had one recently where I was on stage and like I was just about to talk and I stopped myself and I just let that long pause sit in. And it was so quiet in the room that I could feel a heartbeat, and a pen dropped in the back of the room. And it was weird. The energy broken from that one pen falling, I felt it in my heart like a shockwave. And it was the most odd moment I had, but it was this moment of extreme clarity and a very vulnerable, honest truth came right out of my mouth. And it was maybe a little insulting at some degree, but it was very truthful. And I just said it. And I said, what an unfair advantage I have over every single one of you right now. It was just this odd moment of clarity about thinking about the best in class, the best leaders in the world, best founders in the world, people that serve at the highest levels, that created the biggest companies. Like all of them have tapped into what I just felt. This reality of like, wow, what a game changer this is to know what I know right now, to feel what I feel. What a cool feeling, by the way. It's a feeling of crazy power. Now you could do two things with that. You could use it to hurt, harm, and really to take advantage of people. You can manipulate with it, or you could do it to impact, use it for good, use it to fight evil, all the cool things, like get to God with it, all that, go for it. That's the part I preach. But it is that reality that I could use this as a weapon to hurt or to do good. You ever feel that?
It goes all the way back to Jeannie's question. Do you want to be significant or do you want to be successful?
Yeah.
People who chase success use people around them and almost always leave a trail of damage. And I mean, when you get it,
powerful.
You understand that it's not about the money. It's not about the business. It literally is.
Yeah.
Can I become the best version of myself? can Ken Joslin become the best Ken Joslin that God's called him to be?
Totally.
So I can then in turn impact enough people around me where they're out winning at such levels, bro. I'm telling you
Yes.
what. Now, fulfillment doesn't pay your electric bill or your house payment.
Agree.
But I'm telling you what, dude, when you lay your head down on the pillow at nighttime, bro, and you've got some fulfillment,
Yep.
and you're laying there and you're like, man, God, you're so good.
Let's go.
I get to do this. I get to get the text messages and the emails and have the conversation. I had a lady in my community this morning who hopped on a call with her single mom, 2 kids in the back, has her own insurance brokerage now. She said, Ken, 2 years ago when I walked in Create, I didn't feel like I deserved to be there. Last year when I walked into Create, I couldn't afford to come, so I served on your team and you let me come for free. This year, I've got my own insurance company for a year under my belt. I cannot wait to walk in your room.
Very
I'm
cool.
like, ooh, girl, I'm bringing you up on stage sometime over the weekend because there's a bunch of single moms and a bunch of females in that room that need to hear your story.
Hell yeah. I love this. Yeah, this is what this is the stuff I'm tapping into too. And it's what makes it all worthwhile. And it does. You are fighting evil, Ken. This is how you fight evil. And this is not talking about it. It's being about it. The butterfly effect of that one woman's potentiality because of the light that you've exposed is a game changer. And I always have a disclaimer. I just do. It's just my own thing. It's a newer thing, but it's something I became very aware of. Again, aware of the power that I possess. I am not a hero. And I am not the hero in your story. Please don't make me the hero. All I am is light, and you know, somehow I may have directed you, but you are the hero in your story. Do not put me in that position because I'm not the hero. Because the hero, it's too vulnerable if you look at me that way. I don't want to do it. It's your work. You had to realize it. You had to do all the things. If anyone's the hero outside of you, it's the light. But something this reality of how much power you have to impact someone else. It doesn't mean you couldn't strive to be a hero in life, just to be that type of person that serves. But really, it's like, no, you did all the work. You made all the realizations. You did the hard stuff. You murdered the old version of yourself. You healed the child in you. Like all I was a voice, was a little bit of a light that pointed the direction. I would never want to use that hero to be in a position where I could use it for harm. I think a lot of people do. Yeah. And that's where the manipulation and the narcissism starts stepping in is, I got to stay grounded. I'm not a hero. I'm just a little old guy that is trying to live in some purpose here. That's it. Like, don't over glamorize
my good friend Wes Gay, who's going to be speaking at Create this year. He's a story brand guide with Donald Miller. Him and Donald are really close. And Wes always talks about, like, you're not the hero, you're the guide. He talks about movie scenes, and every movie is the exact same way. Luke Skywalker had Yoda. Every hero of the movie has a guide. Yeah. And that's what he says. He goes, I just want to be your guide. And I'm like, that's what I am. Yeah. I'm a guide. I just guide people. Like Yoda speaking wisdom into Luke or Leia. I'm just helping guide you. I'm not the hero. And if you've got somebody out there, guys, and they want to be the hero, they're not the right person for you. Yeah. You've got a coach and they want to be the hero and they want to make it about them when you win. You don't have the right person.
Well, Ken, I want to speak this for me because this is interesting. So I oftentimes I'll say two things and they may seem like they actually go opposed to each other. And maybe they do in some cases, but like I'm always aware you could be a hero to a little kid. I'll just get down on their level, talk to them. That's a nice thought to float in. It actually has a profound effect. But where I started battling hero for me personally was when I realized I would work with women in particular, and I could feel me being the hero that they needed their husband to be. I could feel me being the man that they wish the person they love could be. And it put me in a really vulnerable position. I realized this is not healthy. I can't be that for you because like you get my point. This is a slippery slope here when you start putting me in this position as the person that changed your life. Like it was too, you have to be very cautious here. Now, from a psychological standpoint, psychology, I'm not trained or licensed. I didn't go to school, but you do a lot of deep work with someone and all of a sudden, like you are their hero. They love you. And it's just not right. You have to be very aware of like the ability to be able to, all the harm that can be done by manipulating that role. Anybody could really do it. And I think a lot of guys come in and they play hero in life. Boys that come in and want to date a girl, they play their hero. They're going to save them, right? And then they turn into nightmares. It's just the harsh reality of being very cautious. You're the hero. You fix yourself. You have high standards.
Well, if you have to be the hero at the beginning, you got to be the hero all the way through.
That's it. The person that's
and
feeling.
That's exhausting.
Well, that's that too. You're right. I thought you were talking about the person.
It's exhausting.
Well, yeah. If you're going to play the game, though, if it is a racket, really, the main point is just no. I'm just a light. I know what I'm here for. But the hero's got to be you. If you look for someone else to make you happy, or if you think that is because that's how I can feel this way now is because of this guy or this person, it's just a dangerous place to start putting faith and trust. You got to put it into you and your standards. Your standards have to control your reality. They have to control who comes in your life and who exits it. And you are the one in control of that situation. I don't know. It's just something I'm super aware of now. More ever now that I do this work, about how easy and slippery that road is to go heal everybody. You know what I mean? We fix everybody. Mm-hmm. It's easy to fix people, I found, just by being a light. But you want to make sure you use mission and purpose and you never want to take advantage of that role ever, 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 ever. So you have to remove yourself from the hero's position. You cannot allow yourself to stay in that position. I don't know if that makes sense, but
no, dude, I love it. And as the more I hear Wes talk about how they do the whole story brand guide and he's doing a session in the mastermind part before the conference, and then he'll do a session on Saturday. The more that I hear him talk about that, in that every movie has a hero and has a guide. Rocky had Mickey. I mean, Luke Skywalker had Yoda. Every single movie that you look at has some type of a guide to guide that hero through and you're just a guide. Yeah, and you have to understand, the problem is when your ego gets in the way, you want to be the hero.
Totally. Yeah. And it feels good, right? People start liking you. They fawn over you. They want your autograph. They got to take pictures with you. You kind of just got to be aware of the role as you build demand around you, and you have to stay grounded to like real strong principles, like this is where faith comes real good. And I also think philanthropy to a certain degree, like I'll systematize in my day, thinking about children with cancer, thinking about death, thinking about children that are being raped and harmed. And what it does, it gives me perspective and it repurposes my emotions. It always reminds me of priorities, and it aligns things that like, oh, I shouldn't feel this way, this pressure, this stress. Like, oh, it's not a big deal. It just makes me more effective, but it gets me closer to like, I always want to stay humble as I rise. I always want to stay grounded as I rise, as I have influence and impact. And again, I think a lot of the people we draw are probably going to be people that see a lane for themselves that they can rise to. I know I get a lot of people, they want to build personal brands. They want to learn how I'm doing this. Like they need to know. And I'm like, all right, well, let's make sure that you're right first. Like your temperament's got to be right for this. You have to know why you're doing it. You have to give a fuck. You have to care. Like you cannot manipulate the role. If you take advantage of it, this whole thing's it's just not a healthy environment. And I don't know how many people talk about this. It's kind of a subject I don't hear talked about a lot, to be honest with you.
Dude, I love it. Because when people ask me, what's your goal at the end of this what does it look like? I told you, I want people to be able to look and go, that's the way you do it. Yeah. I want to change the way people look at personal development. Like you can do this with character and integrity and honor, and you can still be uber successful, and you can help a lot of people. But it's not about me. It's about the purpose and the gift that God's put on the inside of me to be able to help guide people through the journey. And that's what I do. That the people I coach one-on-one, my online community, my mastermind, our Create Conference, dude, I just guide people. Like I just want to guide you and connect you with, number one, with God. And then even if you think about the core five: faith, health, relationship, business, and finances. Proximity, bro, is a cheat code. Proximity is a huge cheat code. I don't know, you're not old enough, but back in the day when they had Nintendos, they had this game called Contra. This back when you used to go to Blockbuster.
Whoa! I had a Nintendo.
Yeah, come on. Back in the day when you had to go to Blockbuster to rent the video games.
Yep.
And they had Contra, and we would try to play all weekend to try to beat the game. Couldn't do it. Show up to Blockbuster one Friday night, and some dude goes, "Bro, there's a cheat code for Contra."
Yeah.
What? There was just no Google, no internet, no anything back then.
Yep.
Cheat code. left, right, up, down,
Sure.
BA, start,
Right.
unlimited lives.
Yeah.
You're like, what?
Yep.
Dude, listen, proximity is the exact same thing.
I agree.
You think about it in those core five: faith, health. For me, I'm down 85 pounds. You know who's been hugely instrumental in the last 2.5, 3 years for me? Gary Brecka. We were texting yesterday. I'm like, hey, dude, what about this? And my stem cell company, RMI, they're one of my largest sponsors. They'll be at Create Conference next week in Atlanta with us. Like when I was trying to talk to them about what kind of stem cells do you offer, what is it? I'm in the movie theater with two of my daughters watching the Indiana Jones movie. I'm getting text messages from RMI's team here, and I'm texting Gary Brecka over here, asking him the questions. When I got stuck on my journey or I plateaued at a certain weight loss amount, I would ask Gary, and he goes, keto. You need to do keto. So halfway through the journey, I did keto from June all the way until like Christmas-ish. The dude dropped another 35 pounds. And so that was part of the journey. Everywhere I get stuck along the journey, I pick the phone up and I call Gary. So he's been instrumental in me being able to lose the weight. Relationships. If you look at every one of those core five areas, they're always, your growth and going to the next level is always tied to a relationship. Every single time. It's always tied to a relationship.
Yeah, your reality is likely what information you're absorbing around you based on what people are around you. Period. And a story. And it does that. You can absorb other people's energy. You can absorb their bad energy and their good energy. And you're around it enough. Yeah. You got to seek out the right people. And this is where I think most people get hung up, is they assume that they can hear that statement like, oh, just go get in the right room, get around the right people. And it won't be some like massive investment on their side. There's always an investment that you're not always going to have to sacrifice. There's always going to have to be an exchange of value. You're always going to have to like really see things through a totally different lens. Even for me, as I was building my businesses, it was always saying yes to things I could barely afford that actually brought me to the best kinds of people. Charity was one of them, writing checks that I could barely commit to in our own business, wondering if this was a good choice or bad, but saying yes anyway. And what I found along the way on accident, I stumbled upon this, is it was always like such a gateway, a fast track towards high value humans that were very important. Was now I had a kind of a seat at the table because I contributed things that they cared about. And I didn't even know I was doing it. I was just because I couldn't say no to a good cause or to a child or whatever the thing was. But again, it's always an investment is my point. There's always an investment or a commitment to get to people that have more demand than you. What do you bring to the table? Like, how are you going to connect to those people? That's a really great question. There's a million different ways.
And how are you? And then what are you going to do when you do?
That's a good point.
People ask me, how in the world did you get Grant I've spoken twice for him. I've been down to his office, spoke to the whole sales team. I've spoke to all the licensees. It's more than twice that I've spoke for him now. But every time when I first, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when I first got connected, if Grant was on Instagram Live and I hopped on, he'd pull me on. He grew my Instagram from nothing to 20, however many thousand followers I got, because every time I got on with Grant, I'd get 400 or 500 new followers every time. And people go, why does Grant do this for you? I said, it's easy, because when he gives me advice, I do what he tells me to do. I literally go, this is what you're telling me to do, I'm going to do it. And that's exactly what I do. Like when he gives me, anybody who's at a level above you or they've done things greater than you, when you go to them and you ask them for advice or you ask them for wisdom and they give you some advice or they give you some wisdom and you do what they say, they're going to come back and give you more advice. Because somebody who's more successful than you are, they're looking for significance. They're looking for, how can I make an impact? How can Eric Rock make an impact in this kid's life? How can Ken Joslin make an impact in this business's life? How can I come in here and make an impact and help you guys become the best version of yourselves? And if you do what I ask you to do, you're going to get better, and that's going to want me to come in and invest even more into your life.
Yeah, for sure. There's always some sort of commitment or investment that you have to make regardless. And most people just won't do that, unfortunately. And how many times have you seen someone, you give them the great advice and they don't do anything with it? I see that all the time. It blows my mind. Yeah. Someone will say, hey, how do you do this, this, and that? And like, I'll tell them. And then immediately, sometimes within seconds after, I see them go order a Coke, a Dr. Pepper, or a Mountain Dew. Like, well, the first thing you should do is never, ever drink that for the rest of your life. Like, not even one time. Why the fuck would you drink poison? Like, you know what I mean? Nope. They go, oh, they're drinking the next soda within minutes. Like, I've seen that happen so many times, even with dumb stuff like health stuff. Like, how do you,
and so what happens when they come back to you and they want more information from you?
I'm not going to waste my time.
Or they want more. I mean, it's like, why would I do that?
Yeah, I won't waste my time.
My time is so valuable. I remember I learned this lesson 23 or 24 years ago. I was youth pastoring. I had one of my mentors come in to speak at this huge youth event that I did with all these other churches. We had over 1,000 kids there, about 1,100 kids. It was a back to school thing. I emceed the whole thing. Ron spoke. I had a band come in from Nashville. It was just a phenomenal night. Well, me and one of my best friends was another youth pastor. We take Ron to go eat dinner at Chili's. We were youth pastors. That's all the money we got, right? We're going to Chili's to go eat. And we go to Chili's to eat dinner. And we sit down, and I looked at Ron, and we're eating, and I said, okay, hey, tell me what we could have done better tonight. And he looked at me, and he goes, dude, y'all did great. This was phenomenal. I said, I understand we did good, Ron, but tell me what we could have done better. No, seriously, man. He said, you did. This was amazing. And I had already asked the waiter for a pen and something to write on. So I had a napkin and a pen. I'm ready to write. I said, Ron, I've been listening to your leadership. This is cassettes back in the day because this was in the late 90s. I've been listening to your leadership material for over 2 years. I watched you walk in the room. This is a 1,200 seat auditorium. I watched you walk in the room. I watched you go up. You went up the first flight of stairs and you sat in the camera well. I saw you up there. And I saw you surveying everything that went on. I know we did an amazing job. We absolutely knocked it out of the park. But I also know you saw things that we could have done better. What were they? Dude, for 10 minutes. One right after another, he was telling me what we could have done better. But he wouldn't even give me that information up front.
Yeah.
But because I pressed, and he knew this kid wants to get back. I was 32 years old, 31. I was a kid. He's like, because he really wants to get better. That conversation in and of itself is how he became my mentor and how I got on my first big stage, because it was his event that I spoke at. And it all came out of, I understand we did good, but I also understand you, and I've been listening to your leadership stuff for 2 years. I watched you walk up and sit in that camera well, and I watched you survey what was going on. What could we have done better?
Yeah.
Bro, he just started ripping it off.
That's good.
Man, the projector was off center. This didn't happen, and this didn't happen, and I'm writing stuff down. We did knock it out of the park. I mean, it was probably a 9 out of a 10, but it wasn't the best.
Sure.
And because I was so concerned on becoming the best version of me and doing the best job that I could, it caught his eye, and he became my mentor literally right after that.
Yeah. A lot of gold in this conversation, Ken. This is so good. We could rip all day. Easy.
Yeah,
Ken, you're a gift, man. I can't wait to have you out to Coeur d'Alene, man. We'll do something cool out here. Maybe we can collab on a project or something. You know?
That'd be fun, dude.
Yeah, enjoy the lake, man. It looks beautiful there.
It's gorgeous. We're going to where there's a place right over here that has, I don't know if they have live music tonight, but it's a really cool just lake shack place, and it's open tonight. So I think we're gonna go grab a cold adult beverage and sit on the lake. Enjoy.
Hey, so I know you have an event coming. As we wrap here, we're getting close to our hour end, and I want to make sure we put some love to what you're doing down there in Georgia, and you got a big event coming. You want to speak to that for a minute?
Yeah, so Create's the #1 faith-based entrepreneur conference in the country, like you mentioned earlier. I've had good friends, some of your good friends as well, like Ed Milet and John Maxwell, Brendan Bouchard, Jesse Itzler, Gary Brecker, Randy Garn, Anthony Trott. I mean, just on and on and on. We always, every year, I've got Erwin McManus coming in this year. Erwin will be here with us next week. That's going to be March the 14th, 15th, and 16th. I think that's right this year. growstackdrive.com/create Atlanta. We'd love to have you. It's a phenomenal time. We spend 2.5 days working through our core 5: faith, health, relationship, business, and finances. I've got my good friend Ashley Hess, who just toured with Maverick City, and they're part of their band from Salt Lake City. It's a worship collective of players and leaders, and we do cover tunes and small worship sets throughout the weekend. We create what we call 4610 moments. So Psalms 4610 is be still and know that I'm God. These moments where you just by yourself get to be still and pray, okay, God, where do I need to grow in my faith? Where do I need to grow in my health? How do I need to grow in my relationships? Who do I need to make it right with? Who have I wronged? Who have I done stuff to that I need to make it right? How can I grow to become the best version? How can I grow my business? I mean, dude, I've got guys like Sean Mike coming in, Randy Garn coming in, Vic Keller coming in. How do I take my finances to the next level? How do I? My good friend Tracy Dews is coming in. She's got a health and wellness podcast, one of the top ones. She's got a PhD in quantum physics. She's been on the cover of Maxim magazine a gazillion times and's got a top rated podcast. She's coming in. She also has tens of millions of dollars in real estate in San Diego that she's been investing in since she was a teenager. She's going to come in and talk about how do I gain wealth? How do I become wealthy? What has she done? Dude, it's going to be a phenomenal time, my friend.
Oh, I can't wait, man. And if I wasn't going to be in Bali, I'd definitely be down there with you. So I'll be headed to Singapore and then Bali. So, man, Ken, congrats on all your success and all the impact in your life, a lifetime of serving, and you have a lifetime left to continue to keep building this thing and impact in the world, man. Grateful to know you. Proud to call you a friend, and thank you for doing the show today.
I appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
Thanks, bro.
So one last time, where can we send people if they want to follow you and get connected to what you're doing?
Yeah, it's easy. At Ken Joslin on Instagram. It's the best place. I answer all my own stuff.
I agree.
Nobody else on my team sees it. It's just me, man. I'm the one that hits all the DMs up. So
beautiful. If
you need somebody, got questions, just DM me. And if I need to pass you over to somebody on the team, I can do that.
Oh, thank you, Ken. All right, guys. Thanks for watching Man on a Mission. Please like, share, subscribe, follow, and then send this to people you care about that you think it'll help. Spread the good love, the goodwill, and the good message. I appreciate you guys. We'll see you next time. I'm a man.